शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Yes, so we were at which paragraph?
After this, a great meeting was arranged by the devotees of the Lord.
You have to start from here only, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Meeting with Prakashananda Saraswati.
Which one? Just a moment, huh? Okay. After this, a great meeting was arranged by the devotees of the Lord, in which all the sannyasis were invited, including the Lord and Prakashanand Saraswati. In this meeting, both the scholars, the Lord and Prakashanand, had a strong discourse on the spiritual values of the Sankirtan movement, and a summary is given below. The great Mayavadi sannyasi Prakashanand inquired from the Lord as to the reason for his preferring the Sankirtan movement to the study of the Vedanta Sutra. It is said, he said that it is the duty of a sannyasi to read the Vedanta Sutra. What caused him to indulge in Sankirtan? After this inquiry, the Lord submissively replied, I have taken to the great Sankirtan movement instead of the study of Vedanta, because I am a great fool. The Lord thus represented himself as one of the numberless fools of this age who are absolutely incapable of studying the Vedanta philosophy. The fool's indulgence in the study of Vedanta has caused so much havoc in society. The Lord thus continued, and because I am a great fool, my spiritual master forbade me to play with the Vedanta philosophy. He said that it is better that I chant the holy name of the Lord, for that would deliver me from the material bondage. In this age of Kali, there is no other religion but the glorification of the Lord by utterance of his holy name, and that is the injunction of all the revealed scriptures. And my spiritual master has taught me one shloka from Brahan Naradiya Puran, which is Harer Nam, Harer Nam, Harer Nam Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastev, Nastev, Nastev Gatir Anyatha. So, on the order of my spiritual master, I chant the holy name of Hari, and I am now mad after this holy name. Whenever I utter the holy name, I forget myself completely, and sometimes I laugh, cry, and dance like a madman. I thought that I had actually gone mad by this process of chanting, and therefore I asked my spiritual master about it. He informed me that this was the real effect of chanting the holy name, which produces a transcendental emotion that is that is a rare manifestation. It is the sign of love of God, which is the ultimate end of life. Love of God is transcendental to liberation, mukti, and thus it is called the fifth stage of spiritual realization, above the stage of liberation. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one attains the stage of love of God, and it was good that fortunately I was favored with the blessing. On hearing this statement from the Lord, the Mayavadi sannyasi asked the Lord, what was the harm in studying the Vedanta along with chanting of the holy name? Prakashanand Saraswati knew well that the Lord was formerly known as Nimai Pandit, a very learned scholar of Navadvip, and his posing as a great fool was certainly to some purpose. Hearing this inquiry by the sannyasi, the Lord smiled and said, My dear sir, if you do not mind, I will answer your inquiry. All the sannyasis there were very much pleased with the Lord for his honest dealings, and they unanimously replied that they would not be offended by whatever he replied. The Lord then spoke as follows. Vedanta Sutra is comprised of transcendental words or sounds uttered by the transcendental personality of Godhead. As such, in the Vedanta, there cannot be any human deficiencies like mistake, illusion, cheating, or inefficiency. The message of the Upanishads is expressed in the Vedanta Sutra, and what is said there directly is certainly glorified. Whatever interpretations have been given by Shankaracharya have no direct bearing on the Sutra, and therefore such commentation spoils everything. So, The word Brahman indicates the greatest of all, which is full with transcendental opulence superior to all. Brahman is ultimately the personality of Godhead, and he is covered by indirect interpretations and established as impersonal. Everything that is in the spiritual world is full of transcendental bliss, including the form, body, place, and paraphernalia of the Lord. All are eternally cognizant and blissful. It is not the fault of not the fault of the Acharya Shankar that he has so interpreted Vedanta. But if someone accepts it, then certainly he is doomed. Anyone who accepts the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead as something mundane certainly commits the greatest blasphemy. The Lord thus spoke to the sannyasi almost in the same way that he spoke to the Bhattacharya of Puri, and by forceful arguments he nullified the Mayavad interpretations of the Vedanta Sutra. All the sannyasis there claimed that the Lord was the personified Vedas and the personality of Godhead. All the sannyasis were converted to the cult of bhakti, and all of them accepted the holy name of Lord Sri Krishna, and they dined together with the Lord in the midst of them. After this conversation of the sannyasis, the popularity of the Lord increased at Varanasi, and thousands of people assembled to see the Lord in person. The Lord thus established the primary importance of Srimad Bhagavad Dharma, and he defeated all other systems of spiritual realization. Since then, everyone at Varanasi was overwhelmed with the transcendental Sankirtan movement. Hare Krishna. So this is a very big chapter actually in the Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the meeting of Lord with Prakashanand Saraswati. So you see, the Vedic school actually this this kind of distinction between impersonalism and personalism has become more prominent in the age of Kali. The Veda aim of Vedas is to know the Supreme Lord. Krishna puts it very specifically. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedya. Vedanta krit vedved eva chaham. That of all the Vedas, I am to be known. Vedanta krit vedved eva chaham. I am the knower and the compiler of the Vedas. So everything is to be that is to be known from the Vedas. It actually culminates in Krishna. Krishna, Vishnu, Narayan. So that is the real objective of the Vedas. But the impersonal commentaries given by Adi Shankara have obscured these teachings. Now, one may ask why these teachings are given in the first place. If someone of the caliber of Acharya Shankara is giving a teaching which is confusing the minds of people, why should he do that? What is the need for that? So, a little bit we have to understand that, the Lord is absolutely pure. Everyone cannot achieve him. He's not meant to be achieved by everyone. He's supremely pure. So, what happens is the teachings of Adi Shankara act as a filter. They filter out all those who are by nature atheistic. So, there are two purposes of this teaching of Adi Shankara. One is, first of all, Adi Shankara gave this philosophy at a time when Buddhism became very popular. Buddhism is nothing but pure atheism. There is no concept of personality of Godhead or religiosity there. It's just about passive religion. It's just about, peaceful existence. It's just about other ahimsa, not committing violence. But as such, it doesn't have any theology. So to establish a highest philosophy of personal nature like the Vedanta philosophy is impossible for to such class of men. Therefore, Adi Shankara introduced a softer philosophy, essentially the philosophy of Brahmavad, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. So in this way, he introduced the concepts of Vedas which were aligned with Buddhism. It was easier for people who are inclined to Buddhism to understand the Vedanta philosophy given by Adi Shankara. That was the first, you can say, the first priority of Adi Shankara. Second one was that this Buddhism became popular because people by nature were atheistic. They were abusing the Vedic knowledge just to cause harm to other living entities. Because in the age of Kali, people are generally atheistic demons. So they were atheists. It was meant to be like this. However, so it acted as a filter. So atheistic people who were putting on the garb of being religious became attracted to this impersonal philosophy. Okay, I am as good as God. God has no form. It's all right. Everything is eventually Brahma. So see, if you carefully evaluate it, the philosophy of impersonalism is not very different from philosophy of Buddhism. The Buddhist philosophy is very similar to impersonal philosophy. I mean, whether you say the Lord has no form or you say that there is no Lord, it's quite similar. So it's easier for an atheist to accept it and thereby accept the authority of the Vedas. Later on, of course, greater acharyas like Ramanuja or Madhva, they came and re-established the philosophy of a personality of Godhead. So, for example, if you see the philosophy of Ramanujacharya, Vishishta Advaita. Vishishta Advaita is similar to Advaita, but it is distinct. It introduces the concept of a personal God. It introduces the concept of servitorship, of devotion, which were missing in the Vedanta Sutras presented by Adi Shankara. So even though it maintained the concept of Brahman Satya, it did not say Jagan Mithya. The philosophy introduced the worship of a personal God and relationship, Dasya. So in this way, the later Acharyas could establish the personality of Godhead on the basis of Vedanta Sutras because Vedanta Sutras were popularized by Adi Shankara. So in this way, the acharyas have followed one after the other. So even though it appears like a contradiction, there is not. For the less intelligent, it's very contradictory. For the most intelligent, there is no contradiction. However, general mass of people who are atheistic by nature do like this concept of impersonalism. That's why this dharma, artha, kama, moksha is so popular amongst the Hindu class of men because it talks of moksha. After moksha, no need to know anything. No need to learn anything. Either I am annihilated or I become the supreme. In any case, I don't suffer. But the concept remains I. Aham mameti. I and mine. Of course, that philosophy is better than gross atheism that we see now. Pure sense gratification based on sinful activities. But still, it is not the highest philosophy because it is restricted to the false ego, to the level of false ego, of selfishness, of I and mine. The teachings of bhakti go beyond that. So this is what Mahaprabhu says that this is the fifth perfection, that is pure love of God. Because at that stage, this whole concept of aham mameti vanishes. The living entity sees himself as part and parcel of the Supreme in eternal relationship, in bliss and happiness. So in this way, Mahaprabhu established the philosophy of personality of Godhead and devotional service to him. Because devotional service is absent in Adi Shankara's philosophy. And eventually it makes the heart very hard. So why these philosophies were introduced in the first place? The reason is that general mass of people are like animals. So the concept of a personality of Godhead cannot be introduced directly. It has to be introduced in steps. First, the human beings must become civilized through sanskaras. After becoming civilized, they must acquire knowledge. And after acquiring knowledge, they must realize the absolute truth in the form of all power or Brahma. And once they are sufficiently purified from the concept of aham mameti, they become free from sinful reactions, then they become pure enough to understand devotional service to the Lord. So in this way, the living entity can be purified. So this path is very long. In the previous ages, people were born, into varnashram dharma. They were born into varnashram, they were purified, and it automatically followed. And they had to go through the four ashramas: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. They went through these ashramas and eventually they realized the Supreme. And sometimes it took many lifetimes. But in this age of Kali, everyone is born like an animal and animal propensities are being encouraged. So in this age, one has to purify oneself by following through with this process, and then one can become purified and gradually approach the Lord. So in this age, it becomes so difficult. So Harer Nam, like the highest medicine, is directly given because it's impossible to now follow the process of Varnashram Dharma. So Harinam is given so that one can directly purify oneself and attain the love of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments? Okay. See, this is slightly complex topics. So, I mean, we are assuming that you have studied Bhagavad Gita once before so that it becomes easier to understand. Because Shrimad Bhagavatam is the explanation of that devotional service which the Lord has mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 15th chapter, 4th chapter, 18th chapter, the devotional service that is mentioned, that will be described in the Shrimad Bhagavatam. So, so therefore, please go through those subject matters, those topics again and again, and you'll have hundreds of questions, and it's perfectly all right. So please take a notebook, note down whatever you have in your mind, and ask these questions because these topics will become very difficult to understand otherwise. Because from now on, we are not going to talk about purification, purificatory processes, or other things. We are going to jump directly to the pure devotional service of the Lord. Okay.
So
We
actually,
continue.
this part of our life that we are here in the 21st century, we can say that it's a blessing in disguise also that the proper devotional principles of bhakti have been uh, properly revealed to us. It's just now that we have to apply ourselves. Otherwise, as we see the evolution of the philosophy, so it took so many centuries, almost 2 millennials. So now that we have it, so we really have to cherish it and really be very serious in practicing it. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a
Yes.
beautiful explanation. Hare Krishna.
Actually, it's not my explanation. This is the explanation given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Nama vinu kali kale nahi ara dharma. Sarva mantra sara nama ei shastra marma. So in this age of Kali, there is no other, Nama vinu Kali kale nahi ara dharma. In this age of Kali, what rites can be performed? Ghee is not pure, wood is not pure, grass is not pure, brahmanas are not pure. Demigods don't even look at earth now. The whole earth is polluted with the blood of innocent cows and other animals. Men are violent and thieves by nature. I mean, in fact, thievery is now accepted as a standard. If one is not cheating, then one is not considered intelligent enough. So in this age, how will we perform? Demigods are not some cheap personalities. We may hear so many criticisms of demigods on the internet and books, but demigods are very elevated personalities. They are very pure. Their hearts are very pure. What we do hear about them are some minor mistakes they have committed, but they are overall way, way, way more pure than we are. Why will they approach us? How can we approach them? Chandra, Surya, Indra, Vayu, they are very pure demi personalities. They are disgusted by our appearance on this earth. So how can we approach them? So how can yajna work in this age? The only yajna is Sarva Mantra Saranam Ei Shastra Marma, chanting of the holy names of Krishna. That will purify. And what will be the benefit? One will attain the pure love of Godhead. Not just freedom from Kali Yuga, it's freedom from materialistic misconception. One will become established in pure love of Godhead. So that is the purport of this verse. Sarva Mantra Saranam, because all the Vedas are in mantra form. So the essence of all the mantras is Nam, Hari Nam. Harer Nam Eva Kevalam. Only the name of Lord Hari. So we continue. We have 5-6 minutes more. We can take one more paragraph. While the Lord was camping at Varanasi, Sanatan Goswami also arrived after retiring from office. He was formerly one of the state ministers in the government of Bengal, then under the regime of Nawab Hussain Shah. He had some difficulty in getting relief from the state service, for the Nawab was reluctant to let him leave. Nonetheless, he came to Varanasi, and the Lord taught him the principles of devotional service. He taught him about the constitutional position of the living being, the cause of his bondage under the material conditions, his eternal relation with the personality of Godhead, the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his expansions in different plenary portions of incarnations, his control of different parts of the universe, the nature of his transcendental abode, devotional activities, their different stages of development, and the rules and regulations for achieving the gradual stages of spiritual perfection, the symptoms of different incarnations in different ages, and how to detect them with the reference to the context of the revealed scriptures. The Lord's teachings to Sanatan Goswami form a big chapter in the text of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and to explain the whole teachings in minute details will require a volume in itself. These are treated in detail in our book, The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. So Sanatan Goswami came to Varanasi when the Lord was returning from Vrindavan and proceeding towards Navadvip, towards Jagannath Puri. So these teachings are essentially very important teachings, even more so than the teachings to Prakashanand Saraswati, because Srila Sanatan Goswami is none other than the Sambandha Acharya for our parampara. He is the teacher who introduces us to the concept of Krishna Bhakti. The Guru Parampara starts from him and Rupa Goswami. That's why we always say Shri Rupa Sanatan. So Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. So he's our Sambandha Acharya. His worshipable deity was the deity of Madan Mohanji in Vrindavan. You can see that. It's a very tall temple. When you enter Vrindavan for the first time, this is the first Goswami temple that you can see from when you enter from the Delhi side, from Mathura when you approach. It's a very tall building, very beautiful building, established by him in the 16th century. And Sanatan Goswami established the basic principles of bhakti, of acharana. So he has written very elaborate commentaries on Hari Bhakti Vilas, on how to conduct one's existence, or Vaishnava Acharan, or Vaishnava etiquettes, because he introduces us to the concept of bhakti. So Srila Sanatan Goswami was taught in great detail. He was the elder brother of Rupa Goswami, incidentally. Rupa Goswami had left earlier, he left later. He was known as Sakar Malik. so So the Lord gave him very detailed instructions on the various aspects of bhakti and Lord, which he later wrote down in various textbooks, which we today follow as the Gauriya Vaishnava Siddhanta. Okay, so yes, so we stop here today because time is running out. Does anyone have any questions or something to comment? Because the next time when we meet, we'll probably be finishing this introduction, culminating with the 8 teachings of the Lord, the Shiksha Ashtakam, which we may want to discuss a little bit. So next time we'll finish with the introduction to Lord Chaitanya's life. But why are we discussing all of this? Why have we not started Srimad Bhagavatam? Actually, we have already started Bhagavatam. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttam shloke bhaktir bhavati naishthiki. So all that is troublesome to the heart is destroyed when one studies the Bhagavat and worships the person Bhagavat. So we are studying the life of Bhagavat. What is expected of a person who understands the Srimad Bhagavatam? What are the lives and pastimes of great acharyas who have studied the Bhagavad? So just like, when we study, say, modern physics, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, we study the lives of professors also, because the lives are not just about their personal activities. It's about how the knowledge evolved, what impelled them to find this research. So when we are seeing the life of Mahaprabhu established the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam. And as we can see, he introduced these principles all across the width and length of India. In South India, North India, Western India, Eastern India, Mahaprabhu went everywhere and established this cult of Srimad Bhagavatam. So how he did it, what he did, is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But why we are studying this is to understand what an Acharya really means. So the personalities that we are going to see now, like Prithu Maharaj, like Priyavrat Maharaj, like Chitraketu Maharaj, we're going to see Mahabhagavats there. But only specific mentions of their activities will appear. But when we study the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can see someone who's a contemporary, who's in our age, who's not in the bygone ages of Satyug or other planetary systems. He's in our planet, in our times, Kali Yuga. 500 years is just like 1 or 2 seconds in the age of Brahmaji, or much less than that. So he's a contemporary Acharya, who's the Lord himself, who has taught us with his own example how to live the life of a Bhagavat. what is expected of the life of a Bhagavad. So this becomes not only an inspiration for us, but also a path that we can follow. Mahajana yena gataha sapantha. So this is the path which we are expected to follow if we want perfection in our lifetime. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So,
Prabhuji. Dhanyavad.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah, it's time. Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna,
very much.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Dandavad
Krishna.
pranam. Thank you.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pranam all devotees. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.